5th committee of the whole meeting today. Welcome, everyone. We barely have a quorum, but we do have a quorum when Rich is on his way. But this time, Mr. Downey,
I'd like to offer a motion that we go into executive session for the purposes of discussing legal matters, personnel, student waivers, and a variance. Anything else?
yes,
Is that good?
yes.
Good.
Okay,
That.
motion,
Second.
second, Ms. Fennel, all in favor?
Matt's not here.
Aye.
That's
Okay,
your.
all opposed? All right, we are in executive session.
Jason's like, I'm just hitting stuff.
Saying stuff. I don't even know.
Start bringing your gavel with you. Jennifer, is your surgery the day after?
No, my surgery's actually May 17th.
17th. Oh, right after our board meeting.
Right after our board meeting.
That's what.
I had my knee replaced. And
exit executive session. The motion from Ms. Kennemore, a second by Ms. Dove. All were in favor. No opposed, and we will start with, Ms. Dick.
All right. Item number 1 on the agenda is a request to approve the lifeguarding and aquatic safety standards. Senate Bill 50 from the 2024 legislative session authorizes local boards of education operating high schools to offer instruction in lifeguarding and aquatic safety as part of the high school curriculum beginning in the 2026-2027 school year. By preparing students for real-world lifeguarding roles, this course supports both career readiness and statewide water safety initiatives. These standards were developed with input from an advisory committee comprising of aquatic safety professionals, public health experts, and experienced health and physical education educators. The standards were presented at the September 2025 board meeting and have been posted for public review and comments for at least 30 days.
Okay, I kind of jumped the gun there, but I'll let the committee take over for rules now. Who's running rules today?
I'll run rules, I think Frank's not online. Any questions about item number 1? Comments? Okay, item number 2.
Item number 2 is a request to approve the standards for effective governance of Georgia school systems. The State Board of Education has adopted governance standards for local boards of education as the basis for local school governance board member training. In September 2010, the State Board adopted the standards for effective governance of Georgia school systems. These standards were organized into 8 domains: governance structure, strategic planning, board community relations, policy development, board meetings, personnel, financial governance, and ethics. The standards for effective governance of Georgia systems are being amended to add a 9th domain, school safety. This domain and its accompanying standards were agreed to by the Georgia School Boards Association's Safety Advisory Committee, which included representation from the Georgia Alliance of School Resource Officers and Educators, Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security, Georgia Public Safety Training Center, Georgia School Superintendents Association, Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, and Georgia Department of Education. These standards were presented at the September 2025 board meeting and have been posted for public review and comment for at least 30 days.
Any questions or comments about item number 2, Ms. Kenmore?
Okay, this particular item, is there any consequences attached to this if the districts do not abide by the standards of effective governance?
These are similar to the standards that we have for the other 9 domains, which is that it must be now included as part of the training programs for the trainers that are providing that training to board members. And then they provide to us annually during their survey of the trainings that they received, just so that we have at least acknowledgement that they have received training in this area.
Any other questions or comments?
I do want to say that I'm very excited about this domain being added. But as Ms. Kennemore asked this question, I was going to bring up, as we talk about effective governance for our school districts, they are doing the affidavits, and as a person who's served on a local board, I've done an affidavit. But I am concerned that, there is a lack of understanding of what is actually in the standard, and we're facing critical issues around the state because people simply aren't either adhering to the training or going to a conference and not attending the training. I just think that there's an opportunity for the state board, each of us individually, as we have our public hearings, as we, again, meet with different members of our local boards in our districts, that we put a focus on the standards and to really help our districts make the best decisions for our kids in alignment with the standards. And I don't know how the department works in that, as consequences are punitive. I'm not looking at it from that mindset, but I do think that there's a serious concern that these standards are just here. We said that these are state board rule, but there's no consistency among the districts that they are, one, adhering, or they're even attending the training to properly be educated and implementing the standards along with their superintendents. I think y'all do a phenomenal job of working with the superintendents, but I think the board chair and the vice chair of the boards need to be held to a standard of understanding that this is accountability for them as well, and the superintendent is not at fault by themselves for things that go wrong in the district. That's why they were elected, to hold accountability to the superintendent. But it seems like to me, there's a lot of people pointing the blame at superintendents, but the local boards aren't doing the work. And again, these are standards that have been implemented since 2010. And people aren't adhering to them. So there's a concern.
Well, I think it is something we can definitely have a further discussion of what that looks like, again, policy versus law. I know one of the things we are looking at, and of course, I've been with Dublin City and the financial mismanagement that has gone on down there. Who's responsible? Definitely local board was given information, superintendent was given information. Within state law, there's a separation. Of course, this agency, we do not have an impact or, as far as looking at it, credibility or even having any authority over local boards of education, which would probably take, I would think at the very minimum, a change in state law. So that may be something to look at. As far as looking at, local board training, things of this nature, of course, one of the things you look at is that, we have charter contracts. Is that something that you could have something tied into that as well? That is a possibility. But I think it's just trying to look at the discussion. What does training look like? I know one of the things we've looked at within the potential new legislation, if you are a high-risk district, financially, then the board chair and I think perhaps even the board and the superintendent have to go under mandatory training with that. And that may be something, again, potentially to look at, on a broader scope, of these standards as well. That if there's some designation, then, would that require training? I think a lot of the training, I think we work in conjunction with the Georgia School Boards Association. So, I think trying to more unify that process. But, I definitely welcome the input if we want to have a, continued conversation of what that looks like and trying to think, what is the best way? Again, like I said, I think you're looking here, is it state board policy or is it a change in state law? So that's just something to consider.
I'm gonna agree with what Nick says. I mean, it does feel like that these don't have any teeth to them and we're seeing the it's kind of like what's the point of them right now? So, yeah, I think we do need to look at something.
Well, and again, that's why I mentioned you have two recourses. Either it's state board policy if it falls within the context of what the board has the authority to do, or is it state law, which again, that means working with the members of the General Assembly in the legislative session.
When I became a local board member, the first training I went to, new board member orientation, and GSBA did a phenomenal job of facilitating that. And as I've attended other trainings, RESAs and different organizations that they provide quality training that is in alignment. It's just I don't know if people are taking away from the training and saying, hey, there are 8 domains that we need to go through each domain. We need to hold our superintendent accountable through their evaluation according to these standards. And then we need to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that our school, one, is focusing on student achievement, being physically responsible, but also adhering to other aspects of these domains.
Yeah. Well, once again, I think we would have to, I think Dr. Taylor, Ms. Super Drake, again, just trying to think what our avenue, because here we're looking at Title 20. Of course, now you're talking about local school board and authority, which we all know there's a lot, and if not most of our authority comes at the local level. So again, that would require 2 things. Again, what is the authority of the state board to pass policy? or does that cross over to a domain that where you now have to have legislation passed, into, eventually a law? But, if there are concerns there, I think, we'd be glad to have that conversation and try to say, this is the options that are out there.
I would really strongly encourage you to look at the flexibility contracts, because you can make them a part of that. So,
Well, I mean,
Well, it
again,
looks like
that's,
you can do
checklist.
right now.
8 domains, we just check them off.
yeah.
And, were there a lot of comments on the posting of this, standard? Were there comments, any comments?
There were
And I'll say, I think all of the groups that Ms. Taylor named, I mean, they've put a lot of effort and time, and I've had
They have.
the opportunity to attend their meetings. And this, adding this domain is probably the first revision that has been added to the domain since they were implemented in 2010, to my knowledge. Is
Yeah.
that correct,
That's
Superintendent?
true.
Okay.
That actually been before my time.
And before all of us.
Dr. Taylor, can you check into their questions?
yes.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions or comments? Move to have those added to the consent agenda, items 1 and 2 from the Rules Committee.
Items 1 and 2 to the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Valdez.
That concludes our business.
Move on to budget.
What's yours?
All right, item 1 is a grant amendment. This is our FY26 construction-related equipment grants for CTAE. Support program improvement for CTAE instruction in selected LEAs in the state of Georgia. The grant amendment will fund labs and LEAs that were not ready to receive funding at the beginning of the fiscal year. The grant amendment amount is $534,854, which brings the total grant amount to $6,085,854.
Any questions or concerns?
In the allocations, there was, a change in the allocation to Gwinnett County. Is that because of a recalibration of the formula or what?
Well, it most likely was they didn't spend all their funding, so it was reallocated, but.
So, Gwinnett County, they decided not to open a lab this year. So, the funding is based on the lab that's actually opening, and the funding is set by the lab itself. They're not opening that lab this year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
What is the funding source for this? It just says other, so I'm just.
The funding for these grants is included in the bond package in the governor's budget and in the
Okay.
legislative session.
Okay.
Some years it's bond money and some years it's cash. This year it's cash, but it goes through GSFIC and they approve all invoices.
Okay, it just said other here, that's what I was wondering, okay. Thanks for asking.
Item 2.
All right, item 2 is a contract renewal with RTI International. Georgia received an allotment for the voluntary lead testing in school and child care program drinking water grant. The purpose of this contract with RTI International is for the administration and fulfillment of the programmatic requirements of the grant. The total contract amount is not to exceed $621,500.
Any questions or concerns?
So will this round out all of the lead testing for schools in the state, or will we expect to see more in the future? Does this cover everything, because it's been going on for some years?
Yeah, I think it's voluntary. Todd, are you?
Yes, hello, everyone. It's voluntary. Schools can elect to enter into an agreement with the organization to get their water tested annually.
And once the testing happens, is it on that system to make any corrections that come out of the
Yes.
reports? Yes, okay.
Yes, ma'am. If the system, once the water is tested, if they find that there is a substantial amount of lead in the water, then it's the system's discretion to make changes do those things necessary to improve the water for that particular school or this in total district.
Excellent. Thank you so much for answering the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, item 3.
Item 3 is a Child Nutrition Technology Innovation Grant. This grant received from the United States Department of Agriculture will provide funds that contribute to the Georgia Department of Education School Nutrition Division's in-house software rebuilding project to support technology needs, including maintenance and operations. The total grant amount is not to exceed $541,924.
Questions or concerns?
That's up under, Keith.
The system is maintained by Keith. That's under our school nutrition program.
Okay.
This is for maintenance operations, not for a new system?
No, it's for maintenance on our current snow, which we actually just updated to Snow 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, item 4.
Item 4 is a grant, computer science teacher equipment and community grant. This grant will provide professional instruction, practice, and pedagogic support to computer science teachers across the state. The total grant amount is not to exceed $327,550.
Questions or concerns?
I have a question. With the instruction and pedagogy of this, does that include AI with this? We're hearing so much talk and everything going on. I was just wondering if that's incorporated in this.
So this grant is really about the teacher equipment and community grants, and so it is helping them to have high quality tailored service and support. Now, districts can incorporate all assets of computer science in that, but that would be at a local level, how they're developing, supporting, and implementing computer science.
Okay, so it's at their discretion. Okay.
Item 5.
Item 5 is our 50 to 250. Are there any questions?
I'd like to hear.
I have a question about the Southern Regional Education Board, and forgive me because I'm a little probably late to the ball game on this one, but this is about new math standards, and I'm not exactly sure what this is, but I thought we had actually done that a couple of years ago in terms of introducing new math standards and all of the stuff and training and stuff that went along with it. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what this is and why it's needed and why is it being done now?
Well, I'll address that. Again, of course, with the new math standards, we'll be actually completing our 3rd year of implementation. When, again, as I began to enroll with you, and I think as we continue to enroll our new strategic plan, we're looking at assessment and gaps analysis. I think for us, we're not introducing new standards. So if there's a, talk, I said, I assure you, we are not touching standards at all. But I think it is necessary to look at say, what is our student performance? I think having an outside set of eyes to look at what is taking place in Georgia, whether it's looking at, different grade levels, are we seeing performance difference in issues? And again, this is something that I, had a discussion with Dr. Aldridge with. I think, trying to make sure that we're accountable for everything we're doing. And again, that was one of the things that I shared with the strategic plan, that we want to make sure that we look at that our students are performing where they are. Looking at, things such as attendance. Are we seeing attendance? Is school climate and culture, is it having an impact on where we are performing in math standards? Are we looking at the high quality materials that are being used, the curriculum? Are we seeing successes where we're not seeing successes? Right now, just in a cursory thing, we looked at, we said, well, we seem to be doing well in 8th grade math. When it comes to the high school, or our 8th graders taking the high school math, we seem to be doing good up to the point with high school algebra. But are there gaps, below that where we need to see where we're performing? Are we efficient? Do we need to make corrections? Where can we support our teachers? with this. I mean, we have a very limited, math team or, across the board in teaching and learning. But I do think it's very important that we do have from time to time, and we'll be doing this with ELA once we get to a point. But again, the magic number is 3 years. This is enough data that we can actually begin to think scientifically, okay, we're seeing a pattern. And this will allow, working with SREB to do that. But once again, we're not changing anything. If you look at, and one of the things I look at, even the first line, it says supporting Georgia's new math standards. So again, it is not, we are creating new standards, but these we would consider our new standards. Our current standards, what we have, is what we're talking about with that. Even description of services, you look at their support, it says support, statewide assessment review, collaborate. We're not giving up authority at all as far as what's going on in the world of math throughout the state of Georgia. And again, these are just recommendations, but I do think it's important, for us to look, and especially from, almost a business model of looking at performance, looking at evaluation of what's going on in Georgia for, our, mathematics, to make sure we're getting the best, we're doing the best, providing our teachers with the best resources as we continue to move forward. So, simply said, this is the gaps analysis of what, we're seeing after 3 years of math implementation.
So is it, I kind of understand it, thinking of it like data mining in terms
Yes.
of the,
Yes.
the test data that we have now and sort of closing.
Yeah, just seeing, what performance areas, because again, even when you look at
Not with an idea though of changing the standard or anything like that, because we already did that, right?
This is, trust me, I'm
I
not
didn't
going
think
through that
so,
again,
but
no.
yeah.
But I think it is just making sure that we do have proper alignment. When we look at the standards themselves, I mean, of course, you dig down into the different domains, within that. And so I think it's doing a deep data dive, if you will, to make sure that we're getting the performance that we want for our kids. And that are we fully supporting the teachers and providing them the resources they need? Because from the scientific model, and again, what we know about math, our kids need to be foundationally solid by 5th grade. Not looking at 8th grade, but what's taking place at 5th grade. And so that means we've got to look at K-5, what are we seeing there? We're seeing good growth there. We do have our Beacon screener, which again works with DRC. It's fully aligned to our standards. And so for those schools using that screener, are we seeing information? Much like what we see with, the screeners in literacy, currently. So, but yeah, I mean, simply said, we are not touching the standards. But I think we are trying to look at a gaps analysis and looking at performance, and just to see, are there outside, factors that potentially are playing a part. I mean, one of the things, of course, in the state, we have absenteeism. Is this, an anomaly that is having an impact? Is it, school climate? Is it having, or school culture, aligning with that? So, or either the materials that are being used, the curriculum at the school level. So, but that's the intent. And again, it aligns with where, we are moving with our strategic plan, especially on the accountability piece, because we want to make sure that wherever we're spending our money, that we're getting a return of investment on it, especially when it comes to our kids' education. Once again, if there is any, if there's some information that says we're changing standards, that I guarantee you is 100% completely false.
Well, it's, again, I'm new to the ballgame,
Oh,
but when
yeah,
I
yeah,
first
sure.
read it, I'm like, oh gosh, are we starting this whole process? I
yeah,
thought we
yeah.
just did that. That's what I looked at.
You are correct, yeah, and I think when it says Georgia's new mathematics, again, it's in reference to the current standards we have, not something that we are looking to create in the future. So yes, I mean, to our math teachers out there, no, we are not changing the standards, okay? I guarantee you that is not the case.
I have a question about the security doors at AASD. Does that include all the doors for the classrooms, or is it a partial replacement, or what?
So
So that is for every classroom door to be replaced, including the frame, because the sizes of the doors are not standard. So we're gonna replace the frame, the door will have an included window so that, we can look into classrooms without going into classrooms. And it will include the security unit, that, is employed if there is an intruder alert. So a steel shield that comes across the window and a mechanism that keeps the door, it's attached to the frame and to the door that you lock down, and so the door cannot be opened from the outside. That is all inclusive in this one, number that you see there.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
That is good.
Nick, got your nod?
That's good.
Okay.
I like that. We need to buy them for everybody.
I know, I agree.
I know some.
Fortunately, I didn't hear it, 'cause I didn't hear it, so. But if you said the superintendent needs a raise, I'll agree with that.
All right.
He said all doors, all schools.
Pardon?
All doors, all schools.
Okay, yeah. Of course, like I said, I think, and I appreciate what we're doing to increase our security, because that has to come first, so I
Yeah.
applaud.
All right, item 6.
All right, item 6 is our grants and grant amendments under 200,000. If there's any questions on those.
I just wanted to say that the Ag Ed extended day, extended year state allocations, that is something that directly benefits a very large portion of my paycheck, so thank you. for that. And
You earn it.
as far as accountability goes, I want to assure you that that $15 million, we are held to a very high level of accountability for that extended day, extended year money, so it is well earned.
All right, any other questions or concerns?
I have a question about, the FY 26 goal grant allocations. Could you tell us a little bit about that, outdoor learning opportunities?
Can you repeat what you said, was the goal, I know,
Goal
about
grant.
allocations?
Mm-hmm.
So those allocations are determined, up to that $5,000 limit, and that's based on what they actually apply for in their grant, so what their project is and what their projected costs are.
What would be an example of like a project they would do?
Like an outdoor garden,
Okay.
a STEM related project, but a lot of them use them for outdoor type learning projects and extended learning space.
Okay, thank you.
This is the third year of gold grants.
All right, Madam Vice Chair, we're gonna move items 1 through 6 to the consent agenda from the Budget Committee.
All right, thank you. Items 1 through 6 to the consent agenda. Okay, District Flexibility and Charter School Committee. Mr. Downey?
We have to wait just a minute.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that, but we were right on time. Amen.
Makes you read here to our
There you go.
Yes. All right, we have one item on the agenda for District Flexibility Charter School Committee, and that deals with the local charter performance framework. Sir, how are you?
Greetings. Good, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Nice to see you all. Yeah, so this is just one item for today, no schools, but we have the local charter performance framework. House Bill 318 from the 23-24 legislative session, signed by the governor on April 23rd, 2024, established the Office of Charter School Compliance with the intent of creating stronger authorizer oversight, more meaningful authorizer support, and more consistent and aligned charter school accountability across the state. A central focus of the OCSC is to align local district and state level charter school authorizing policies and practices to eliminate inconsistencies and process gaps. And you've seen some of that with the authorizer standards that were just done by the external agent, et cetera. The current charter performance framework, that's the CPF, developed by the State Charter School Commission, and that's the one they currently use for state charters, establishes rigorous but fair performance expectations based on best practices of charter school authorizing. The proposed local charters performance framework, LCPF, would replace the current accountability language used in local charter school contracts with language that is rigorous, transparent, and aligned with the CPF. That is what we're bringing to you. And just to give you a few other pieces here, so just to clarify, this replaces what's currently in local contracts. It is neither a higher bar nor a lower bar. It is a more clearly articulated bar and aligns with what's used by the State Charter School Commission that's been road tested over the last several years. And it really swings the focus. The language that's in this framework that we're asking you to look at and adopt is already a portion of what is currently in charter contracts. There are many roads to approval in the contracts. This simplifies things a bit. Some challenges, though, with the Appendix A as it exists right now is it only exists in each discrete charter contract. Over time, that means that different languages crept in, and there are variations. Some charters have different stuff in there. We really want that to be aligned. It's also a challenge now that the accountability language is only in the contract documents, so someone really has to pull out a contract and look through it. The CPF is posted online, as the LCPF will be as well, so it'll allow more transparency and folks to see the criteria that charters are, or that authorizers are using. And this alignment piece is very, very important. So it will allow us to not only, I think the most probably important part of it is we'll be able to really report on charter school performance, local and state, and compare it apples to apples in a way we can't do right now. And that's really the bedrock. If you have technical questions about the document I put in front of me, Katie Manthe, who's the Director of Accountability for the Commission, should be online. Katie? I see her there. So if you have I can handle things up to a point, but you'll see my face turn red, and then Katie will start talking if you override my ability.
Yeah, and if y'all have not, thank you for that.
Yeah.
The framework itself is part of the agenda. It's about 23 pages, very detailed. I like, what we're doing and what we're moving toward here as charter schools continue to grow in popularity throughout the state of Georgia.
Well, it focuses on a very essential question, right? It doesn't ask charter schools to outperform the entire state, which is not really viable for, if you're in an area that really doesn't have the resources. It just asks that simple question: is the student getting something better here than they would be getting at their zone school, period?
Absolutely. Did we have any questions? Ms. Mel?
Yes, ma'am.
This goes back to something Jennifer said earlier, but does this help a new local board authorizer? This is just about the process of renewing, right? I mean, does this also help a local authorizer sort of know what to look at when they're authorizing a school? Because now they got these strikes against them, and
right.
And does that align that part of it with what the SCSC is doing too, or is this just focused on the evaluation of performance once they get up and running?
Well, no, I mean, it is a little broader than that. I'm glad you mentioned that. If you're in the authorized seat at a local district, particularly in the operational portions of the framework, it really tells you what to look at, what is compliance, and that is articulated in a much more granular way than it was true before. So it really does help you if you've never authorized before, you're not sure what.
Now they get these strikes against them if they don't authorize
Yes.
it, so
So it's
they,
important
they're
that
a
they get
little bit
those.
left with, I thought I was looking at the right, I mean, this helps the question of what is it I'm supposed to look at, so that I don't get dinged.
Absolutely, and it was, I wouldn't say it was random before, but it wasn't very clearly articulated, and it was fairly broad. So it does help in that way too. Thanks.
So it narrows the scope of everything.
It does. I do want to, I should add also that you'll notice this in contracts next time school comes out. Local districts can also use their own criteria related to what's in the public interest. That's part of law as well. So we're not eclipsing that in any way, and that relationship's not any different than it has been in the past. It's just this part of the accountability, which is, frankly, will be your accountability, right? The state level accountability is refined and focused.
More clarity.
Yeah, so we're not stepping on local folks' abilities to exercise their own judgment, but it's just clarifying what we expect.
Any further questions, comments, thoughts? It's my understanding this is an action item,
That's correct.
so if there are no objections, this will go to the consent agenda. Any further questions? No, that's the only business that we had.
I will say, I actually read the 23 pages, and like the accountability for charter schools is pretty intense. I mean, it's very deep. And so for anybody who's out there that still wants to, question charter school or whatever, the accountability part of it was very, very deep. I was really kind of impressed with that, actually.
Thank you. I mean, I love the way this will communicate out to folks what a great job we're doing. They really don't know unless they find a contract and, put it up to page.
Well, it should help everybody feel good about charter schools they have, because I'm like, they're held to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're asked a lot of really deep questions that they have to live up to, which is good.
Yeah, high accountability. That's what we need.
And it's not, which forms you fill out.
Well, and I should also say, and I'm sorry, Mr. Downey, I'm kind of running over
No, it's
thing,
fine.
but
No.
just to clarify also, if you look at using the framework, the CPF, the reason this is slightly different is because the state framework accounts for the fact that state schools have their own LEA. So there's a couple questions related to title programs. So that's why, otherwise we'd love it to be completely but it doesn't. But the commission using the CPF over the last couple of years has closed low performing schools, right? And so that, just to be clear, that accountability is there.
Low performance, that's right.
I just want to say, I appreciate the work that y'all put in to make sure that we were talking about things in clear language, so there's not this sort of what we would call mutual mystification in the sales world of what's really going on here. So thank you for doing this. I think it's a really great document. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Katie, want to say anything?
Thank you.
Is there anything she wants to add?
Do you want to add anything, Katie?
Oh, no, here for questions if needed, or if you have any questions after this, always available to talk more in depth about it and answer any questions or explain anything. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Madam Chair, that's all we had, and that will be moved to consent agenda.
All
That
right.
concludes the business.
Just an item for information that the Georgia Building Authority tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is having a fire alarm in this building. So if you plan to be here in the morning, please try to be up the elevator by 8:50. Now, we were gonna call to order at 9 a.m. because we did not know a week in advance to post this. So we will call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. I may be the only one in the building, there may be one or two. Then we're gonna recess for 1 hour, but remember that the Georgia Building Authority's clock may not match your clock. So try not to be on an elevator where you might be sitting for a little while because you may not have good cell service inside the elevator when it stops. So we will come out of a recess at around 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And our guest speaker tomorrow has to be at the Capitol at 10 a.m. So we're going to have a couple of things before they get here, hopefully, that they can get here. I think you have to be at the Capitol also at 10 a.m. So maybe we'll have a speedy walk back here to get time to get our military person here to honor veterans and Veterans Day here at the Board of Education. Any other business?
Of the items for information, the
Yes.
SB 68, and
Yep.
the high and moderate list. Russ is here if you would like him to just go, I know that's been a topic of interest lately for the board.
Okay.
If you wanted him to address that.
Russ, there you go.
Yeah, I think we did publish the newest Senate Bill 68. Susan, did you get that? If you haven't looked out recently, we did update for a few that fell off that we didn't. We had an older version, so we've got that updated. If you have any specific questions, to get on this list, this is a list provided by Department of Audits. I think they send a letter to the board each month of who they've added, who they removed. We maintain this list kind of for the board, where we send out the corrective action notices, we send out the, we track whether or not the superintendent's attended training, we track whether or not their corrective action plans will meet the findings that have been issued by the Department of Audits. But as you've got that list, if you have any specific questions about any districts. So.
Yes.
I noticed that the corrective action plans, there are several that we're waiting on that they're coming due, but there is a glaring late corrective action plan from a certain system, and I was just wondering when we can expect that that particular system will turn it in, or if they did and I just didn't make the list yet. It's at the very top in the moderate list. I know they also had elections yesterday and they have a runoff coming up for a large majority of their board, I believe. But I was just curious, because it's a rather large system and.
Yeah, and they had a lot of findings, it appears.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's due 12/24. The team will probably press them each week until we get it. We can share that. I can share that with Brett when we get it.
And there's some other ones that.
Yeah, I think Crawford.
Throughout December and then even in February, I think that so we'll be getting them in the next month or two, hopefully.
Not too many of them go beyond that date. We start passing them pretty good when they miss the deadline.
So so let's assume that they have filed their corrective action plan and you all need it. Then what kind of follow-up do you have to make sure they're staying with it? Or what do you do after that? I mean, I'm looking at these counties on the high risk and they've checked all their boxes, but how do they get off the high risk list?
So the only way to come off the high risk list is when you get your next audit, and the Department of Audits goes in and addresses each of those findings. So to get on the Senate Bill 68 list, you have to have a finding with the Department of Audit. Once you have that, when they get those findings, the next year you can come off the list if you've resolved all your issues. Now the board tracks whether or not they submitted a plan that they're going to put in place to get off this list, and then the Department of Audits would verify whether or not they've actually put those controls in place.
So there's not like, they submit their plan and then we just kind of trust them to implement the plan until the next year? Is that how that works?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I'm not being, I'm
No,
really
yeah.
not, don't read any kind of, I'm asking a question.
Yeah, I think that's
any kind of judgment in that.
That's a good question. But no, we do track if it's financial related to turning in stuff for us. But this is more of an auditing function, so it would be more of the Department of Audits privy to these type things. But we do evaluate their plan. So our financial review team, which I think we've given plenty of updates, depends on how you look at it. 3 or 4 folks, 3 state, 1 federal funded that are actually field personnel for all the financial reporting of the states. So we're really not staffed for an auditing purpose, or that's not part of their actual job duties. But we do, however, evaluate the plan and address whether or not we feel that it will address these findings. And if it doesn't, we send it back to them and they have to redo it.
Any other questions?
There will be questions. But
There will be questions. There will be questions.
There will be a lot of questions. And I think, and I will say this very candidly, and I think Matt is still on the line. I think we need to get a little more on top of, not that we haven't been on top of it, but really as a board doing our due diligence making sure that we are holding these systems accountable in collaboration with the department, for obvious reasons. And I'm sure that we've all been contacted both by the media and by state legislators, and I think there's gonna be a fix, a recommended fix across the street anyway, so we.
And Jason,
Yep. I was
hey,
waiting for that.
I am still here and I concur.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what Nick started out with. I mean,
No, do something.
And we will,
Gotta be accountability.
yeah.
have our audit committee again in January also.
And we are enabled to, it has some teeth to it.
Right.
And we've been loath to granted do anything, but I think we have to start considering that.
Right, and once again, I've already, submitted recommendations to the General Assembly. As we look at that, and to your point, I do anticipate there will be some legislative action that will take place to help close some of these gaps.
And I'd like for us as a board to work with our partners over there. As much as we can, the department, the board, sort of the tripartite relationship.
Yeah.
Because if we don't work in collaboration and get out in front of it,
They'll
then
tell-
we're just gonna be told what we're going to do.
Told what to do.
And I think that us being, well, I mean, if they're gonna, I've always felt like if there is legislation across the street that tells us what we need to be doing, that we should give our input. They want to hear from us.
Right.
And again, and Matt can sort of piggyback off of this if he wants, but the state legislators want to know and have been calling, figuring out, trying to figure out what happened here, with the situation that was in the media. So, I can ramble all day about it, but.
And the question has been asked, why is Dublin not on the list? But they have to do an audit to get on the list. So if you didn't do your audit, do your due diligence.
Those audits are expensive.
They're
The forensic audits are, that's why the large systems do it, because they have the money, the resources.
Yeah.
When I was on the Bibb County Board, Nick, I don't know what they did down in Wayne County, but Bibb County Board, we have a forensic audit every year. We engaged, Alden and Jenkins, I think, to do a forensic audit.
Yeah, they came.
And then we would take corrective action ourselves if there was anything to do before it triggered something from Department of Audit. And a lot of systems try to do that. Not everybody can. Some systems, and that's another question, is there's some systems that are struggling financially. And that's a whole other conversation. But we're gonna see more of those systems pop up on the audits, and it seems to be the same players, but it's not just the small systems. Obviously, we've got some of the biggest systems in the state that perpetually show up on that list too. Anyway, it'll be.
Miss Petty.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Matt Donaldson here. Thank y'all. I agree with everything that the board members have said. Even Jason, it kind of hurts my feelings to agree with him so much. So I missed that. I look forward to our next audit committee meeting to discuss these questions and get us some answers.
All right. Well, looking forward to it.
I'll just say, Domain 7 talks about financial governance. It's a whole list of things to learn from. That's where I learned them from, right here at the Domain. I didn't have some person come teach me that outside of the people who are approved on the state board's list to teach it to me. But it all came from here.
Yep.
That is true.
Billions of dollars. Billions.
But even more so, over 1 million children.
Correct.
Yes.
1.7.
1.7. A lot of future right there. Any other questions or comments for Russ? Or for anyone else here?
Thank you for your help with this.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
All right, remember, if you want to be in the building on the 20th floor, try to be here by 8:50. I don't want anybody getting caught in an elevator. It could be a while, it could be just a moment. But, board members, please, teams in, so we have a quorum to call the meeting to order. All right, we are adjourned.